Hey, Todd here, and welcome to another Acme Machining. We're going to continue on with part 2 of our motorcycle shock spring tool. And here's a picture of what we are basically looking at. Okay, not building it exact. That there looks like it's been cut out by a CNC machine, but we're just doing square stock, and we're going to make it happen. So keep some money in our pockets and have some fun in the shop. So come along. So what we're doing today is we're going to make some collets to fit in that spring removal tool to take the spring off motorcycle shocks. And I'm basically going to be making 4 different ones. There's a 60, a 66, a 72, and a 75 millimeter bore in these collets. I'm just going to do one. And of course you start at the smallest and work your way up. So I'm going to make the 60 millimeter one, and then we'll get over to the, we got to drill and tap the ends on our 9-inch, 3/4 inch rod. So we're going to start with a 1-inch drill and get a hole bored in this. We're only turning 60 RPMs on the lathe, and we'll get her done. I'm going to shut this furnace off. Okay, back to the task at hand. This is aluminum, and I got to do a lot of boring, so I'm not going to start. I did have a pilot hole, but I'm not going to sit there and do baby steps. This is a 1-inch drill. Now again, when these get too long, I just give a little peck on it, and off they break. Making some aluminum Christmas trees with this 1-inch drill bit. Definitely deep enough for do the first couple anyway. So I'm going to set my compound over. I'm just going to set it at 45 degrees. get a boring bar going in here and get this thing up to size. Pick up the speed to 200 RPM. Like I said, we're doing the smallest one first. I'm just going to let that boring bar go in our ways. Going to move my dial indicator out there so I can set a little bit of a stop. Taking a 30 thou cut. Not in a hurry. If it's a bigger lathe, I'd push it harder, but I'm not going to make you watch all of this, so I'll bring you back when I get closer to my 60 millimeters. Okay, so I got it out to size, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the compound, and I'm going to put a bit of a 45-degree chamfer going in there. Not taking very big cuts. I'll raise this tool just a little bit. chamfering this out so I can get that spring collet or spring lock out of the way. Don't want to have to depress it any more than I have to, because I figure most of these motorcycle shops, they take about 500 pounds pressure to compress them an inch, so. I'm not going to make you watch it all. I'll bring you back when I get close. Okay. I'm not going for any particular dimension here. I'm just going for aesthetics. And I'm just going to do one final cut here. As long as it wants to behave and cut nicely. Of course, when you say you're going to do one final cut, decides to get ugly. So one more final cut. And I'm going to call that good. So we've got our 60mm bore in here and a 45-degree angle. So when we get the spring keeper dislodged, we got room to bring it out. And I am just going to leave, I'm going to pick my 3/16 number again. I'm going to go in about 3/16 deeper than this and then the edge of the chamfer and part it off. So we'll get a parting blade in here and we'll be right back. Real easy to set up a parting blade. I just loosen it off, lock it into the work, and tighten it. You can pick anything you want that's parallel. It all works great. I'm just going to slide the ruler down here. Call that 0. And I am just about 3/8 deep. So, like I said, I'm going to go to almost 5/8 deep and just give a touch more. I can always take it off the back side when I'm done. It's hard to add. It's not too warm. If you play hot potato, it's not too warm. I don't know if you guys can see that. I was aiming for 3/16, I got closer to a 1/4 inch, but that's all right. I can always trim it up if I want to after. So I'm going to put this down because it is a little hot. And I got 3 more of these to make. I'm doing them off camera. You've seen one, you've seen 4. Okay, so this is a 60mm. I got to do a 66, a 72, and a 75, I believe. So usually I work in inches, but I'm just calling it as they called it in the on the sheet that I was looking at. So we'll bring you back after. Okay, folks, done our last little bit here. We just have to drill a hole and tap it times 6. I'm only doing one on camera. If you want to see it more than once, just hit rewind. I'm sure it'll be there. We're going 8mm by 125. So we are drilling a 17/64. Call it hole starter here. Other pieces turned out real good. As soon as I get this here drill and tapped, I'll bring you over to the bench and I'll show you what we got going on. We're going to slow this down. Going to get our tap, put some anchor lube on it. This stuff works real good. A little dab will do ya. Keeps you out of trouble. I just want to start that. Get everything out of here. Your way. Don't waste your money on cheap taps, folks. Biggest problem you can have is breaking one, so buy the good ones. I know this is just aluminum, but I'm not leaving it any mercy. Blow that out. Okay, I've got the other side done. Did them off camera. Over to the bench we go. Okay, as you can see, we have 4 collets, all different sizes from 66, 60, 66, 72, and 76. I did say 75 earlier, but this hole is 80. So I figured just in case I run into a larger one, because this here, the whole idea of this was 4 motorcycles, but every now and then you run into somebody that has a coil over on cars, so just not being sure of what sizes I may run into, and I don't want to have to go back to the drawing board. We'll torque those up nicely afterwards, but basically I'll show you how this works. Still need to make one part, so stick around, we're not going anywhere. This here 76 one has a little bit of slack. The 72 does not go over this part of the collet. I have to be just on this part of the shock. So I gotta get sitting down like that, and when this collet comes apart, it comes apart in 2. It's just like a valve keeper in an engine. Okay, so that goes like that. I have one more part to make. I gotta trim this up. I'm just gonna trim it up off camera, but I've got to take this block, I'm going to size it down just a little bit to fit between. I'm going to size it down quite a bit, just in case that isn't the smallest shock I ever see. But I'm going to drill and tap a hole up through for this 3/4 by 16 rod. And I'll Loctite that in there. And then I'll trim this down and drill a through hole for that. And all it does is you pull this down, and the spring stays up top, the rest of the shock goes down, you split the collar off. I'll show you how it's done when we get it complete, but the dinner bell's gone off and I am hungry, so I will see you guys in a little bit. Now, I was just going to use this for my block. It was in my scrap pile, piece of 1.25 inch, but my only thoughts is I am going by a 3/4 16 tap through this. So the tap is going to be longer than this block. And for me to get some good thread engagement, I got to get the tap in nice and deep. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cheat a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a longer piece and I'm just going to chuck it up in a 4-jaw. Now, trying to mark the center of a square or a circle. Have you seen one of these? Okay. It just snaps on. You take your scribe, you turn it 90 degrees. And you guys can see I got that marked. That's my dead center. Now I just put a longer piece of stock in the 4-jaw chuck. And I'm not going through trying to dial indicate it and all that. All I'm going to do is, I've done this, I'm going to center punch the center of it, I'm going to center drill it, and I'm going to start drilling to get my 13 or 3/4 by 16 threads per inch. So let's go over to the lathe. Okay, so I did my cross hatch, I got a center punch there, and I'm not worried about where this is centered on this end. I'm not doing anything on this end. All I'm doing is drilling. My wife was in Value Village. It's like a Salvation Army. And she picked me up this Jacob's truck. Well, let me get in here. There it is, Jacob's truck. And it's a 6A2A. And somewheres it says, there it is, Sheffield, UK. This is not one of the made in China ones that you get today. So I got a Jacob's truck with a Jacob's MT3 Arbor on it for $6.49. I was happy that day. We're going through it's a second-hand store. We're going through the second-hand store and she says, is this any good? I just about wanted to take her to a jewelry store when she found that for me. Not worried about being 100% on center. I just want it to be close. Yeah, I'm a little off center, but nothing to worry about. I had to find my 11/16 drill bit. There, see? That's making its own center. Go a little deeper here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tap that as deep as I can. Then I'm going to run the rod in and see if I can seat it as far as I can in. And then I'm going to shorten this end up. And at that point we will figure out how long we want the other end of this. It's just, I don't want to have it hollow where I'm putting that bolt through, because there's going to be quite a stress on that bolt, so, or the pin that's going to be attached to the shock. So we'll get her done. Now I'm probably going to have to put a tap follower in here and tap this by hand, but I'll be back. Okay. Now, when you're trying to run a tap, I've got a center, spring-loaded center in there, but when you're trying to run a tap in and you're doing it with one wrench, you're putting all kinds of strain, all lopsided. So what I do is I always use 2 wrenches. I know it's a pain in the behind, but all good things cost. I'll try to get out of your way here so you can see. So this here works just like a tap wrench does now. I can push equally on both sides rather than just on, if I was just on one side, I'm trying to push something round into an egg. So this way, it's just like using a tap wrench. You put same pressure on both sides of it, and it goes. So now that I've got it started, I'll pull it out. I'm going to finish it off in the vise with a tap wrench, because it's that much easier. Okay folks, just the same as using the 2 wrenches, but I don't need to reset them every quarter turn. Now I don't have a bottoming tap. I would love to have a bottoming tap, but it just hasn't been on my list yet. My list is longer than my wallet is deep. I'm just going to lock these 2 nuts lightly. That tells me how much thread engagement I've got. I've got about 3/4 of an inch thread engagement. So I can force that down further, and I'm going to. I want to get down there as far as I can. Not worried about what I do to the end of the rod. generally when you're engaging a nut into something, they tell you 1.5 times the diameter. Let this rod cut some of the threads down there. I'm not going to have lock nut on this. When I put it together, it's going to go together with red Loctite. And it'll never come apart. Now if we look at our tool, I'm going to make this fit, but we've got all kinds of room here. So me leaving that longer, like if I have it 1 inch longer than this piece, that's going to leave me all the thread engagement I want, and it's going to give me a solid piece up here. I'm not going to have it bored out where I'm drilling through for this bolt to go in. So, okay, so I'm just going to cut that off camera, and then I'm going to take it over to the mill and we're going to finish this up finally. So then you'll get to see how slick it is taking the spring off of that shock. So we'll be back. We're set up in the mill now. I just scratched the line in with carpenter square. Like I said, doesn't need to be to the thousands on this project, so. Starter hole set, and then I am going to go with probably just go with an 8mm. That's more than strong enough to hold that. Okay. Inch-and-a-quarter bar stock, square stock. So I got a 5/8 center, and I just come 1/2 inch from the end. So that'll give me plenty. There we go. We'll get this drill chuck out of here. And get an end mill in there and mill that down some. So we'll be back. Okay, so I got a end mill in there. I think it's a 3/4. Yep, 3/4 end mill. And I just left it centered up where I drilled the hole. So I'm just going to start it up, and I'm going to bring the table up until I touch off. There we go. So we'll call that 0. I'm just going to come up 50 thou. If I take 100 thou off of that, it should be more than enough to actually I'm going to feed that up another 25. Measure on this. Take another 50. I'm going to take another 100. Call that 0. Put a little head stopper on this. it over. Got that zeroed out. Just gonna leave it at my 75. Give this a quick deburr, and we'll decide if we're done. We'll go over to the table and take a look at it in the shock. So we'll be back. So we got this mounted up. It's sitting in soft jaws on this vise. I keep a set of soft jaws on this one all the time. Too lazy to change the jaws all the time. Okay, so what I've got is, I've got this just sitting here. It's just 8mm bolt in there, and you can see these collars. Just sorry about my hands in the way, but there's what locks them in there. So much easier than the other way. Got lots of room to work. That's why I set this one back. It just gives me a little bit extra room. Half inch is a half inch. And there's our collet, or our different collars. And there's the spring. Now that shock can be serviced, or you change the springs, whatever you're doing to them. I'm going through and revalving this one, but that's a later date. So I'm very happy with this little project. It was a lot of fun to make, and it works really good. So before, I was always sitting there doing crazy things, putting it in my press and then trying to move it with a lever and get somebody to push down on the bar, and it was hairy. This is the safe way to do it. It's the proper way to do it, and it didn't cost me very much to make. So I see that I'm digging into the aluminum, so I'm going to put get a 3/4 inch steel washer there, put a little lube on it. It'll work a lot better. But give us the old thumbs up on the like button, and please subscribe and share it with your friends. So have a great day, folks.